Good evening on what is a warm, bright and sunny evening. It is Monday the 17th of July. I've got a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to unbox. So let's get this open if we can find the way in. There we go. This is Dark Dungeons. Retro role-playing rules. Doesn't even have the name of a publisher anywhere on it, but I shall find out. Dark Dungeons is a free retro claim role-playing game, a game in the style of old-school 1980s and 1990s role-playing games, harking back to the days when rogues were thieves, races were classes, and you could start your adventure exploring a few basic dungeons and end up travelling the plains as an immortal being of pure divine power. This book contains the entire game in a single work, so there's no need to cross-reference between multiple rulebooks and supplements. Grab some dice and form a party like it's 1989. Okay, so I have a couple of issues first off. Grab some dice and form a party like it's 1989. Well, the thing is, in the style of old-school 1980s and 1990s role-playing games, well, it's kind of, the 90s aren't really a period of old-school Renaissance, old-school gaming. I mean, yes, you had second edition, but you really do look back to the early 80s and late 70s for old school. So that's an odd sort of like touch point for an old school Renaissance style game. And I'm going to be really a bit of a pedant here, but look at the 1980s and the 1990s there. Not only is it incorrect to be using an apostrophe there, but they use two different apostrophes there. That makes my editor's brain twitch. And I know as much as that's pedantry, so we open up with some fiction, kind of grey, kind of blocks of text and difficult to kind of access. Then we get into the table of contents. So there's no frontispiece, there's no publisher listed, but here's the contents. Part one, the basics of the game. So that's my other issue. No idea who did this. Okay, but anyway, so carry on. So we've got an explanation of what is role-playing, what is Dark Dungeons, how you play, what a retro clone is, and into getting into the dungeons, Dark Dungeons, Rags to Riches, starting a life adventure, the first adventures, and then expanding your horizons to going beyond, and then chapter 3 is the basics, so the dice you use, how they work, and also the first thing is sort of like basic game concepts. So really we've got the ability scores for bonuses. It's a percentile system. The stats are based on stats, and you're just kind of going, which retro clone is this referring to? Discussion of experience of levels, character classes, alignment, creating a character step by step. Okay. Oh, well, no. Well, it's basically the stats start off, can go up a percentile. It's not percentile. It's still rolling 3d6. This table is kind of like who that's for, because it's not for the players. Because how the hell are they going to get their abilities that high? Anyway, so there we go. You've got class and ability alignments. Cleric, dwarf, elf, fighter, halfling, magic is a mystic and thief. The mystic is the addition there. So you've got the explanation of all the stats and so on. And then you have dwarf abilities by level. So this is okay. So it goes up to level 36. So the obvious inspiration for this is basic Dungeons and Dragons, and we are talking the Beckme version, basic, expert, expert, companion, master, and immortal box sets. Basically the Mensa version of basic D&D as the inspiration for this. But boy, is this quite a dense presentation, dense and grey. I mean, as you can see, it's difficult to read, to use. It's the free artwork, basically the rights-free artwork use isn't helping, but it's all easily explained here. Okay, and we do actually have rules in here for ability checks, so that's quite a modern step forward in terms of retro clones. And it does add, see, skills as well. So you have sort of like some kind of a collision between basic Dungeons and Dragons from the very early 80s. Well, not very early 80s, sort of like, 82, 83. And things like weapon feats, which is where that comes from, I don't know, because it's not like the feats of the D20 system of Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. But, it's for example, you have things like a table of feats for Burles versus armed opponents. So in some ways, it got sort of like, with all these little conditional elements, sort of like weapons versus this, it kind of feels a little bit like Rollmaster. But of course, definitely not that. Okay. And then we have spells and spellcasting. So clerics level by spells. So we've got all these. There's the list of spells for your clerics. List of spells for your druids. Shamans. Magic users now spellcasting. Sorcerer. And then we get into the alphabetical spell lists. So you've just got this one big block of spells, and I mean, let's just check. Okay, so all the spells are sort of covered in surprisingly, something like 107, 108, surprisingly in less than 40 pages. Nevertheless, anyway. But the classics are there. You've got like Wizard Eye and Ventriloquism, Web, Reincarnation, Remove Curse, and so on. Equipping for Adventures, you've got the equipment section. There's your list of armour. And then sort of like, just sort of like, so look, this is hirelings that are available to the cleric, mercenaries, and specialists. I do hope there's an index to this game, because I'm going to be yeah. Anyway, getting on to dungeon delving. So handling things like noticing things, doors, traps, environmental damage, all of the elements you would expect in a retro clone, because it handles dungeon exploration. And then we get on to mapping encounters, wandering monsters. We've got a table, a wandering monster table there. And then combat. So this appears to be okay. Combat round, statement of initiative and actions. You've got different actions listed here, and these include obviously attacking, activating magical items, fighting withdrawal, parries, running, setting spears, and then the actual attack roll. And oh my god. So this is the table 10/2 to hit values by attack bonus versus armor class. Yeah, that is quite something. And then difference between melee weapons and missile weapons. Excuse me. Even this late at night. Even rules for 2-weapon fighting, damage, effects of damage, helpless targets, dying and death there. And then getting better. Getting better includes healing and gaining experience and levels and learning weapon feats, learning new spells before going out into the wider world. So things like mixed terrain, fatigue, getting lost. Essentially, this is all about wilderness travel. So it covers waterborne movement, airborne movement, all the situations you would kind of expect in in a Dungeons and Dragons kind of style game. And then with things like, so we've got like sky sailing movement, even takeoff and landing, and even leaving the planet there. And then wilderness encounters, humans, humanoids. Other wilderness encounters before chapter 13 is settling down, titles and nobility, and even just essentially anything from sort of Baron to Count, going and setting up a rogue state, building a stronghold, terrain and resources, material resources. So essentially you've got rules here for dominions, handling higher level play, responsibilities, and becoming sort of eventually a petty lord. With extensive examples, things like handling festivals and holidays, and they've got events that can happen. Going to war. So you are now going essentially as a king, as a petty lord. You are now taking your forces against those of another petty lord. Out of this world, and this steps up to, not just leaving the planet, but going beyond into the void, the inner planes, the ethereal plane, elemental planes. Kind of classic of all bigger, larger, magical planes of existence, the outer planes, luminiferous ether, the ultimate target questing for immortality, achieving possibly godhood and immortals. Immortality and death, level and experience, and a table of immortality abilities by level, including power attack, mental attack, physical attack, spell attacks, improved ability cost, maximum ability scores, power reserve, anti-magic, weapon damage, strike to kill damage, attacks, armor class, skills, base attack bonus, hit points, hit dice, experiences. Essentially, this is the extra kind of level of experience points beyond the core for being merely mortal. Immortal spell levels. A list of all the spells for them, and then mastering the game. Finally, monsters, all the way in this, quite a way into the book. Essentially, a table list of monster abilities. Various different creatures, and we start off with adamant, angel, animal herd, animated objects. This kind of does actually begin to break the text up a bit, so it's a little easier to read. As you can see, I don't think, I'm just going to see, he's just going to, nothing is illustrated. So that's literally the only advantage there. There are illustrations, but nothing specific to the monsters. So let's just check. Monster section starts on 203. And you have... all the way down to zombie. That's 90 odd pages of monsters in a 345 page book, and then treasure, and you've got treasure types, and then just lists of treasure. So everything, so one stays and rods, guidance for trapping treasure, rings, weapons and ammunition, and that really kind of basically, and then also artifacts, so you can create greater magical items. So basically, that's finding an artifact, using an artifact, destroying an artifact, creating an artifact. I wonder what they're thinking of there. Possible powers an artifact can have. And then Game Master advice. Part 5, additional material. Additional material, folks, is an index. I'm not going to show you all of the index, you can see that, but take it from me, this definitely needs an index, because you're never going to find anything in here. It's 344 pages. It's quite possibly one of the densest retro clones I've actually seen. And whether or not this is, I don't know, oddly, no sign of who ridiculously, I don't know whether this is, there's no sign of who published this. There's no sign of, there's no attribution, as in case of an author. So, wow. Well, it's a labour of love from someone, but it is very grey, I have to admit, and not particularly attractive, as a game. It doesn't go out of its way to really sell itself. But essentially, it's a big slab of a retro clone. I'll be interested to look at it in some detail. Working through it would be not a Herculean task, but pretty close. Anyway, so that is Dark Dungeons Retro Role-Playing Rules. No idea of the publisher. Anyway, thanks for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you enjoyed this, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a package containing a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.